Hey everybody, welcome inside the Sit Down. Ryan Mayer here with a very special guest, Michael Emerson. He's part of the new series on CBS, Evil, playing Leland Townsed. Michael, thanks for joining us in studio today. How are you?
Great to be here, thank you.
So this show, first episode has already aired. Your character shows up, a little bit of an encourager of evil. Just what would you say kind of is the motivation behind Leland here?
I'm not quite sure yet. I mean, presumably that will be revealed to me as we go along. He just seems to be a kind of full-on and unrepentant villain.
Right.
Which is all right. That leaves out the guesswork.
Makes it very easy for people. Right.
They got it in 1 minute that
right.
I'm the baddest guy. And we'll see where that goes.
Now, what's the experience been like for you here on set? Obviously, just a nice cast that you have around you with Mike Coulter involved as well. Just what's everything been like?
I love the cast. The whole company is very good-natured and upbeat. We have a lot of fun. The work has, in some respects, been challenging for me. Mm-hmm. I've been asked to do a bunch of things that I thought I would never again be asked to do in my career.
Like what?
I've had to sing.
Okay.
I've had to dance.
Okay.
I've had to have a sex scene. I thought, you know, once you get past 60...
Yeah, that's not something you're going to be doing anymore,
you don't need to stay prepared for that any longer. But we're doing it, and it's been fun.
Okay. Now, with the singing and dancing, obviously you have a little bit of the theater background as well. So is that a nice return for you to that type of background, or something completely departure from what you're used to?
It's not what I've done as a working actor. I'm not a musical theater guy. Mm-hmm. I have a passable voice. You know, I can sing a drinking song or make a mockery of some pop singer or something like that and carry the tune. But it's not a thing I've ever been paid to do. And dancing, fortunately in this case, I was doing the usual go out on the dance floor and just rock out style of dancing. Okay. So it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit about this off camera, and you mentioned obviously your character is clearly the bad guy and the big bad introduced in that first episode, but this show has some horror elements that maybe we're not used to seeing necessarily on network TV. What's it been like for you to kind of go through that and play with that here on the show?
Well, I think it's kind of thrilling to be working on a legacy network hour-long drama that has such strong horror themes.
Right.
I'm interested in horror myself, or I'm interested in scary stories.
Sure.
Not bloodletting, that kind of thing, but just the suspense, mystery, creepiness of encountering things that may be beyond the normal, beyond human.
Kind of the ghost stories we used to tell each other as kids, and now this is kind of a grown-up version of that, as it were.
Except the menacing events or characters in our show aren't really haunted. They're more in your face and terrifying.
Right. Very, very much there and very much real in this show. And one of the things that kind of struck me as I was watching the first episode was a line that Mike Coulter's character, David Acosta, says while he's in the bar, that evil in today's day and age is able to connect with each other more easily through social media. And I'm just curious of how you think of that, both in terms of the show, obviously your character able to connect through email with the first real villain that we see on the show, but also just in the real world a little bit as well right now.
Well, that's a natural theme and preoccupation for the Kings, Robert and Michelle, who write the show. They're interested in current events and current problems, and it seems like the internet, as great a tool and connector as it has turned out to be, can also be misused and abused, and that's going to be, I think, a big theme in our show. The ways that people who mean to hurt others can join groups and facilitate and cheerlead for others who share their hatreds or preoccupations.
And push people towards ends that maybe they normally wouldn't have gotten to just being on their own. So take me back a little bit to the beginning of your career. Where did the acting bug first get you?
I suppose I'm like most people, you know, it's when you're a kid doing plays in school. in Iowa, where I grew up, we did
Yep.
a lot of speech and debate, that kind of thing. So we would do dramatic monologues or comic speeches at contests, and we would win ribbons for them and stuff like that. And I seemed to do well at that and got a taste for it. And so, being the first person in my family that went to college, my parents didn't have a strong opinion about what I ought to take on as a major study. So
Right.
they said, okay, cool, you want to study the theater? Go ahead.
That must have been pretty freeing for you to have that opportunity to really kind of pursue that, because you weren't getting any
It was.
push
I had
from your
no
parents.
pressures to behave more conventionally or to behave more responsibly, whatever
Right,
that
right,
means.
right.
But, and it has been a long, winding road for me. I didn't really make a living as an actor until I was in my 40s.
Right.
But along the way, I had many adventures and many other kinds of jobs, and maybe I was just gathering information that would make me a better actor when the time came.
Yeah, you talk about it being a long, winding road. I know you've spoken a little bit about this before, but what were those struggles like of kind of pushing past the, am I really meant to do this, and then finally breaking through?
Well, it wasn't too punishing or anything. I don't remember ever being terribly unhappy. I was certainly poor, but somehow that didn't seem so bad. I just fell into other lines of work. You know, I became a magazine illustrator for many years, and when I moved south and started acting, I just did the usual day jobs. I did landscaping, and I built decks, and I painted houses, and I did I designed and built scenery and painted scenery and, stuff like that. Just little drips and drabs of things that kind of added up to half of a grown man's living.
Now, all of those varieties of jobs, you obviously experience the various aspects of life. How does that help you in terms of your acting career now, maybe bringing some of those real life experiences to the screen?
Well, I mean, it certainly taught me a sense of discipline. And maybe some empathy. I have a feeling for what the days are like for a person who works with his hands, for example. And actually, it was useful in the days when I was learning the lines for some Shakespeare play, and I had all day, on a ladder painting a house to just keep running those lines. And
keep going through them.
To be busy with your hands is a good way to, in effect, free up your mind for a more complicated pursuit.
Interesting. So now, once you get that breakthrough moment, and in the practice playing a serial killer, there probably your first real breakout role on television that you had.
That was my TV break.
So when you finally hit that moment, just what was that feeling like for you of now? Okay, I can push forward, and this may be something that I can launch from and build out my career.
Well, it was a good experience. Unexpected and a little overwhelming, to be going to the Emmys ceremonies and stuff like that. That was harder to absorb than the successes I had on the stage, which I had been dreaming of and plotting for many years. So when I finally got in a successful show on the New York stage, to me that was a great thing, and I was ready to celebrate it. Your first time on Broadway.
That was the achievement you had been hoping for.
Oh my God, I'm on Broadway. I'm actually in a Broadway show. Look at all those people. So that was a thing that I savored, I guess, a bit more than I did my first TV success.
Okay.
Because it was so.
It was something that you had
foreign to me and dizzying.
Okay. So when it comes to the theater versus TV side of things, I'm curious. Obviously, you've been in both worlds. Is there one that you prefer over the other, or is there certain parts of you that like particular things within each field?
I am most sympathetic to the world of the stage, I think, because it's where I learned to do the thing I do, and it's a thing that is my reference for the craft, even though I pursue it now in front of a camera. I'm still a stage actor solving stage problems, just being filmed while I'm doing it. I used to go out around mouthing off about how I was fully intending to go back to the stage, but I don't know when that's going to happen, and I don't know how I'll feel about it if and when it happens. Because I know, I can tell you right now, that it will be far more terrifying.
Why is that? Because of the immediate interaction with the audience?
I think because on TV, there's such a safety factor. There's such
Sure.
a safety net of, oh, I flubbed my line, let's go back and start the page over or start the speech over.
Right.
Something like that. You know, it's not for keeps.
Right. There's none of that
In
theater.
front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've gotten used to the relaxation of that.
Mm-hmm.
I still play fully, I think, as if the crew were a stage audience.
Sure.
I always feel like I have to play for someone, if no one else, then the scene partner. But that's different than a large dark room with hundreds of paying
Eyes on you
customers
at that time, and you
watching
have
me,
to get it right.
And knowing that if you make an error, there is no going back.
Right.
You must forge ahead.
Right. You just have to keep on
All of
moving through that mistake. Now, one of the other shows that you, I'm sure, get asked about all the time is your time on Lost. And I'm just curious, what do you remember about that whole experience and guiding yourself into that show and then becoming a huge part of and one of the main antagonists on the show?
Yeah, it was, again, completely unexpected. I guess ultimately the experience for me was as if I were a castaway on a magic island. I went to work, I thought, for 3 episodes
Right.
on the faraway island of Oahu,
Mm-hmm.
and never came home. I was just there for years and years, making believe that I was this dangerous character who lived a very mysterious life and was terrifying to some people. It was great fun, and I have to say it was a character actor's dream come true.
Right.
You always think, well, I go in, I do a little bit here on this show, and I do a little bit, you know, a scene or a character on some other show, and you think, one of these days I'm going to so hit it out of the park
That they want to
they're
keep
not
bringing
gonna
me
let
back.
me go,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what happened there. I mean, in a way, I suppose those first 3 episodes were an audition.
Mhm.
In a way, the producers and writers were looking to see if this was a good way to go, and had I not passed
Right.
the audition,
They might not have
could
brought-
easily have killed me off and
Yeah.
you know, gone to Plan B. Fortunately, they stuck with me.
And you mentioned that character obviously being one that sticks with people as
really does.
as a dangerous and terrifying one for some. Just what's that interaction like with people when they come up to you? And I'm always interested what actors think when people are coming up and referring to them as that character.
You know, people like to feel or make like they feel that you are somehow the character that they feared
Mm-hmm.
or enjoyed, and that's just, it is to be forgiven. They're so excited about the work and your character, and then to see a fictional figure appear before them in 3D in the real world, it must cause them a kind of delicious disjointedness.
Right, right.
It's like, oh my God.
Right.
You know, sometimes they don't even know what to say, really.
Right.
So I try to help them along. But it doesn't happen all that much anymore, but it's nice.
Yeah.
When it does, because there's a whole new generation of Lost viewers. You know?
Of course, yeah. Going back on streaming services
Right.
and getting the opportunity to see it not in its first run.
People that weren't old enough to watch TV
Right.
at the time. So that just keeps going.
And you've had, obviously, we talked about it a little bit with your character on The Practice, with Lost, now here on Evil, some history of playing these
Yeah.
villainous types of characters. I'm curious for you, just, is that something you really enjoy, kind of digging into that side of the human condition?
Oh, I do enjoy it. I
Mhm.
mean, I have to say, it seems obvious to me that playing a villain is more fun,
Right.
more interesting than playing a good guy.
Sure.
I don't even know how good guys work if they're not eccentric or ticky. Or,
Right.
I just don't want to be me. It always feels like if you're playing a good guy, and you are a good guy in real life, which I think I am, where's the acting in it? Where's
Right.
where's
You're
the
just playing
fun?
yourself.
Yeah, where's the strategies
Mm-hmm.
and the masks and you know, the deceptions and you know, all of that. I just enjoy that so much more. And usually villains, for whatever reason, are characters of language.
Sure.
They have ways of talking, and that's part of probably kind of an obscure observation, but Americans have a kind of love-hate relationship with people that speak well.
Yeah.
And so often villains will be articulate in a way that the heroes aren't. Heroes are supposed to be normal and gruff and men of few words,
right?
You know, whereas a villain can rattle
kind of
on.
man of the people versus the villain, a long monologue in which
something too academic or florid. Or the American public is in some way suspicious of too much talk, or too much articulation. So I love supplying, if I can, the thrill of them going, oh, something's so wrong here. Listen to the way he talks.
Right. And you got a little bit of a preview of that in episode 1 with Leland. So just as we go throughout the rest of this season here, just as people watch the show, what are some of the main things you want them to think about as they come away from each episode?
Well, I think they will have to think about the things they don't pay much attention to in the course of their busy, normal lives, you know. Those things that happen at night, or a half-remembered dream, or something that you remember from your childhood that was wrong somehow and you could never put your finger on it. All that stuff you can't put your finger on. All that kind of stuff that the church kind of still believes in, but we've all set it aside because we claim that we don't believe in magic or the supernatural or anything like that anymore. Anything that's outside our explainable experience.
Michael, I appreciate it. Definitely looking forward to checking out the rest of the show. You guys should check it out as well. Evil, it's on CBS every Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. For Michael, I'm Ryan. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.